Hi, I'm James Harvey, the professor of music theory at the College of Southern Nevada with 5-Minute Music Theory. So let's go ahead and start our timer, being that this is 5-Minute Music Theory, and let's switch over to our famous screen to talk about the major scale method. Now, the major scale method of determining intervals can be really useful, but only if you know your major scales very well. So if you don't know your major scales very well, go check out the video on major scales and key signatures and come back here, because this is really useful if you know your major scales really well, because you'll find that you have to do almost no calculation for most intervals. So here we go. I'm going to write as quickly as I can here a C major scale that's ascending. So ascending, that means the notes are going up. Hopefully we all know what that means. And then I'm going to put the respective scale degrees underneath the notes. If I compare all the other scale degrees to this first scale degree, when we're looking at an ascending major scale, you might notice a little bit of a pattern. Actually, not just a little bit, but you might notice a major pattern. It's a major second to the second scale degree. It's a major third to the third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, perfect octave. Therefore, all the intervals in this scale compared to the first scale degree when it's ascending are either major or perfect. And then when we're looking at a descending scale, so I'm going to take the same scale and just go the opposite direction with it. I don't need to write the scale degrees because they're the same. I'll just write this first one. And then if I again compare all of the notes to the first scale degree, you'll notice another pattern. This is a minor second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and then a minor sixth, minor seventh, perfect octave. So when it's going down or descending, it's always either minor or perfect. Now again, this only really is effective if you really know your scales very well. So let's go ahead and clear some space, and I'll show you how this can be useful when determining some intervals. So let's say that we're given this interval from a B up to a G sharp. So if you watch the complementary intervals method video, that's usually what I would suggest you use for an interval like this, since this is a sixth. But if I think about the key of B major, since this is a B, I'm going to think about B major. B major has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sharps. All the sharps except for those last two. And G sharp is one of them. So that means if the G sharp is above the B, it's a major sixth. If we use the logic that was presented by that method, because that's part of the scale. So if I go up the scale all the way up here, that's going to be a major sixth from here to here. Now we can use the opposite as well for going down. So remember, the intervals will all be either minor or perfect. So let's say we have a D flat and it's going down to an E flat. So there's an easier way of doing this. If we went from the E flat, it'd be a little bit easier, but I'll show you that it works either way. Imagine the key of D flat major. More common key than you might figure. So D flat major has 5 flats, and E flat is one of them. That means that this interval is a minor seventh because it's part of the descending scale. Now where this doesn't apply is when the notes are not in the same scale. So if you imagine that this is not a minor seventh, which is the E flat, but it's an E natural, we know that it's a minor seventh down to the E flat, but E is higher than E flat, making the distance smaller between these. So instead of it being a minor seventh, this would be a diminished seventh. So you can even use the major scale method indirectly. Now, if this doesn't make any sense to you, or if you don't know your scales like the back of your hand, don't use this, because it's not going to be useful if you don't know your scales. But if you do, first give yourself a high five for knowing your scales, and then congratulate yourself because you're saving yourself a bunch of time by using this method to figure out a lot of intervals. Thank you.